Hi there, my name's Jane Anderson and this is the Jane Anderson Brand You Show. It's the podcast for experts who want to have greater impact, influence and income for their businesses and careers. As experts, we know that people buy from people and work with people who they know, who they like and who they trust. So I'm so glad you're here because it's that time again now to really amplify how you show up in the world. Hi there, welcome to the show. My name's Jane Anderson and you're on the Jane Anderson Brand You Show, where we talk all things personally branded businesses. So I'm passionate about yourname.com, and because we believe that people buy from people and they buy from people who they know, who they like and who they trust. So today on the podcast, what I'm going to be catching up with you about is talking about visibility. And one of the things that I find is, when I'm talking to people is that they have a real visibility problem, and that is that they're very hard to be able to find, they're hard to be able to see, they're hard to be recalled, so people find it difficult to remember them when they need something. And what happens is that their pipelines dry up. So let's talk about that today. And I don't know if you're in this situation, but I recently ran a course and I had an attendee. I ran it on LinkedIn for lead generation. So I often run these programs. I generally run them internally in large corporate programs, but I ran a public program just recently for a small group of female entrepreneurs. And this woman who attended, she said, you know, my problem is that I think I've been really visible. I've been putting lots of content out there, and, you know, positioning and marketing myself, but my pipelines have dried up. You know, she was beside herself. She was so stressed that she just really didn't know what to do next. And I knew this lady well, and what I found was that, and I kind of knew her business as well. I'd been a client of hers, and I totally understand that frustration. And the problem is that often when we're putting a lot of content out there, is that sometimes we can get the lines a little bit blurred between what is adding value to my audience and what is marketing, or spam sometimes. And so, having had a chat with her and had a look at what she was doing, she was definitely visible, but it was all content that was related to all about her and her selling stuff. So one of the things I find, I don't know if you found this, but I find when you're trying to get visible and you're trying to reach your audience, is that it can be tempting to keep putting ads out. You can have, you know, it might be sharing, you know, your latest course or service offering or coaching program or whatever that might be. And it's really tempting to put that out there. The problem is that people get a little bit bored with that. They also get a little bit irritated. And in fact, I've got a couple of people I'm connected to, and I actually turn off their feeds. I don't know if you've done that, but you find that, you know, the more that keeps coming through, it just becomes really annoying. So people have that option to turn off your feed. But one of the challenges is how do I know what to put out there? People tell me I have to be more visible, but if I keep putting stuff out there, I'm running out of stuff to put out there and keep in front of people. But what's the balance? What do I you know, keep putting out there? Because I'm trying to avoid my pipelines drying up, but at the same time I want to be able to sell stuff. But I also sometimes have this fear that, you know, I've also got a fear of being visible. I've got a fear of putting myself out there and putting my face out there. And, you know, that puts me in a position where people, it puts me in a vulnerable position where people can kind of call me a know-it-all or something like that. Or, you know, it's the kind of tall poppy thing. Here in Australia, we have this thing called the tall poppy, where it's not cool to stand out, or it's not cool to say, look at me. I don't know if you've seen Kath and Kim, but it's a show that we have here in Australia called, and they say, look at me. So it can feel a bit attention seeking. So what happens is we end up procrastinating and not doing anything at all, and that puts you in a worse position. So how do you know what to do, and how do you know what to put out there? So one of the things that, if you look at Michael Port's work, Michael Port has written the book Yourself Solid, and he talks about you've got to earn the right to be able to, you've got to earn the right to sell. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this a lot too. He talks about generosity marketing, and so does Seth Godin. He's written 17 books on marketing, including Tribes, Linchpins, Purple Cows, etc. And what they all say is true. So with your content and when it's going out there, you have to, first of all, be really clear about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to sell, but also what you're trying to ensure your positioning is. So the content that goes out there that it is next to your face and your name as it comes through my feed, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is, the first thing, it has to be really consistent about what you want to be known for. So, for example, let's say that you're looking at, let's say you want your positioning to be around, let's say it's around resilience and being able to bounce back, and, it's around, mindset and those types of things. So, ideally, I shouldn't see anything come through with your face and your name coming through that feed that isn't on that subject, or at least very related to it, or part of the programs that you deliver. So if I'm seeing content come through that is, you like something or you share something that is way off message, like it might be, your message might be around resilience, and then I'm seeing messages come through, or you liking or sharing stuff around marketing, or it might be around performance. Maybe performance could be related, but it's a bit of a stretch. But what will happen is people will get confused and they won't understand what it is that you stand for. So you have to be consistent is the first thing. The second thing to consider is thinking about the mix of your content plan. So you might have read in my book, so my book is Connect, How to Leverage Your LinkedIn Profile for Business Growth and Lead Generation in Less than 7 minutes per day. And one of the things that I put in there is around your content plan needs to be, I generally say it's about 80-20. If you're a thought leader, you can get away with a little bit more because your job is to advance the thinking in the space. And certainly Matt Church, the founder of Thought Leaders Business School, talks a lot about this, particularly in some of his blogs and posts, and I'm a mentor on his Thought Leaders Business School. And so I mentor a number of students in that school who are experts in their field. And what I find is for those people who have personally branded businesses, you have an advantage over the big guys because it's about your generosity, your giving to your audience, and it's not all about you. So my suggestion is to consider that 80% of the content that you're sharing is curated content, and it's curated around your message. So if, for example, let's say you want to be known as a content expert, let's say you're a content marketer, then all your posts need to be around content, around data, research, what are other people saying about the subject. I shouldn't see you sharing anything about leadership or kindness or anything like that. Everything I should see is related to content. Then the remainder, the 20% or plus, if you have personally branded business, you can get away with a little bit more. And that is that your content really needs, you then have earned the right to share your original content and create a call to action to sell your own stuff. Otherwise, what happens if 100% of what you put out there is content that's designed to sell, then you're going to be annoying. It's going to be very obvious that you're just trying to sell to people or sell to me if I'm seeing you come through my feed. and you're not sharing ways for me to learn. Whereas if you've given first, if you've given a whole lot of content and sharing advice and things like that you've found across the net, then I'm more likely to trust you. And we talk about how on this show, it's all about people getting to know you, to like you, and trust you. And the more that you're trying to sell through your content, it feels a little bit like, maybe the used car salesman, is that it's a little bit sleazy. It's like, it's a bit underhanded, and it makes me feel like I'm being used for me to be sold to. So you really want to be mindful of the mix of the content that you put out there. And, if you look at something like LinkedIn, there's an incredible opportunity there. There's more than 400 million people on this thing. So you want to make sure that your connections are the right connections that you want to be selling to, but act in their best interest. Think about what are the things in relation to what you want to be known for. What are the things that you want to be known for with that audience that you can share? Now, bear in mind, this isn't a popularity contest. This is not about how many likes and comments and things like that. And what I find is that people give up really easily. They are using the wrong metrics. The metrics that they're using are around the likes and the comments. I shared this and nobody liked it. I'm sharing stuff and nobody's commenting. If you're focusing on that, what that tells me is that you're losing your conviction because your focus is on being validated by others. And that is not the right space to be playing in. You'll see some of my blogs, and if you listen to one of my other podcasts, I talk about the metrics that matter. And it's also in my Connect book as well. And what happens is we're sort of caught up in this world of validation where the amount of people who like or comment on stuff determines my worth and if it's working on LinkedIn. However, it's not actually about that. What it is about is making sure that you are keeping consistent. So one of the things that I do, one of the first audits that I do when I first start working with a client, particularly when I'm just talking to them on the phone and they're making an inquiry and want to know what to do, one of the first things that I do is I do an audit on their activity feed. So I have a look at how visible have they been? Do people know them? And then I also look at the quality of their visibility. So have they stayed on message? And if they're not on message, then I know that that's one of the reasons why they're failing. Because what that means is that you can have a rock star profile. You can go out and create all the connections and try to advance conversations and be able to build your funnel and your leads. But the problem is you haven't built the trust. And when you haven't built trust, you might remember the story I was talking about in one of my other podcasts. I talk about this date I went on with this guy many years ago, and he turned up with this backpack. And when he turned up with the backpack, I thought he was going to the gym. And I said, "Oh, you're just heading off to the gym?" And he said, "No, you never know. Everything might go all right." And I thought he was joking, but he'd actually turned up with a backpack thinking that it was going to go so well that he wouldn't need to go home. So it's the same thing for your audience. You've got your content and keeping visible, but in service of your audience. Keeping visible and not making it about you all the time means that your audience will learn to get to know you, to like you, and to trust you. If we're turning up with backpacks, if we're turning up with, I want to sell to you, but I haven't given to you first in terms of my content plan, then I'm more likely to kind of go, "Oh, who are you? I haven't even met you yet." It's like turning up with a backpack. You want to suddenly move into a relationship with me? I don't even know who you are. And so that just repels people, and it can really kind of put them off and scare them. So have a look at your content plans. The other thing that I would say as part of your content plan is do a little bit of planning. That's what's called a content plan. So my content plan is currently built out to about mid-2017, towards the end of 2017. So one of the things that you want to do is be really clear about what are you selling for the rest of this year, And what are you planning to sell next year? Is it exactly the same thing? Will you be rolling out new programs next year? And so that your content plan is really clear about what you're doing for the next 12 to 18 months. Because otherwise what happens is that you'll get to each day and you go, okay, what am I going to share today? What am I going to like today? Or I don't know what I'm going to blog on today. And so we procrastinate because we've suddenly got to come up with an idea in that moment. So one of the things I suggest, so I personally have just a spreadsheet of the topics that I need to make sure that I do. And so when I go to write a blog or do a podcast or whatever it might be, I refer to my content plan so that I don't have to come up with an idea there and then. So my content plan, I generally work, I know overall what I'm doing for the next sort of 12 to 18 months, but I will specifically write and put the list of each of those pieces of content, and I work on those each quarter. So I'm generally working a quarter ahead on the specifics of those. And so it means you get momentum. And it also means that, there's so many benefits of being able to do that, and that it's far more effective, far more productive, because you can just get the content out and keep moving. But one of the other things in terms of your visibility, to keep you visible, is your curation plan and making sure that you're staying on that message. Now, there are a few different tools and sites that you can use. You can use things like Scoop.it, so Scoop, SCOOP.IT. It's a great way to be able to share content. It has a free account, and you can choose one word. So let's say, for example, if your word is resilience and you want to be known for resilience, you can jump on there and you can... what Scoop.it does is it sends you an email once a week, and it scrapes or finds what are the articles that are out there, what's the content that's out there on the web at the moment that's in relation to that word. There are a bunch of other curation tools out there. Klout has got a new curation tool in it. I think HubSpot does, as well as Hootsuite I think might have a new one as well. There's a whole bunch of different ones out there. So you'll find that will help with your visibility. Because the problem is, if you're not visible, people forget who you are. We talked about in one of my other podcasts, you might remember, we talked about those quadrants where people know you and they know what they're after, or they know they don't know you but they know what they're after. And so one of the things that you've got to do is keep visible, to keep educating, but also to be memorable. Because if you're not memorable and you don't have presence, then you're going to miss out. That person that you're connected to might not necessarily need help, but you've got to be easily referable. So somebody might ask that person, do you know someone who delivers on X, or do you know someone who's a resilience expert? And they go, absolutely. This person I'm connected to on LinkedIn, have a chat to her. I find if you're doing a good job of it, you'll notice that you'll be tagged in comments. I get tagged a lot for people who are looking for LinkedIn, have a chat to Jane Anderson, and they will tag me in the comment. So my suggestion to you is look at your visibility strategy. If you went through your activity feed, you can do that on your LinkedIn. So there's a little button that's below your title. So if you have a look under your title, there's a little drop down that is next to sort of that connect area of view profile as. View your activity feed. My first question would be, how visible have you been? Have you been visible every single day? The second question I would say is, has every piece of content that you've put out, even if you've liked something, because remember, everybody sees what you liked, or your connections do, it's different than Facebook. So if you looked at what you liked and shared, were you on message? Do you have a content plan? Have you got your curation plan set up? And also your original thought leadership, have you got that plan set up to reduce your procrastination, and so that you're very strategic and you're on message? So I hope that's helpful today. I really look forward to hearing how you go. You are very welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. As you might know, I've created the book Connect, How to Leverage Your LinkedIn Profile for Business Growth and Lead Generation in Less Than 7 Minutes per Day. It's available on my website, which is www.jane-anderson.com and .com.au. And it's also available on Amazon, Book Depository, it's on Kindle, all those types of things as well. So I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and I look forward to catching up with you on the next podcast.